everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. So, just continuing on with this Don Trump Jr. and the Jim Norton show, Jim Norton, Sam Roberts. I think it's hilarious. You'll hear that Trump runs the country like a business, which is the way it ought to be, whatever. What I find hilarious is like, okay, I don't necessarily agree that should be the case, but just given like a failed businessman who can't even run his own small business, which essentially the Trump, well, if you want to, whatever, small or medium, whatever, he's failed at that. Can't run his own shit. Failed businessman, bankrupt, everything. He's a reality talk show host. He's a circus clown. So yeah, if maybe Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg, if you're talking about these guys and they say running the country like a business, makes sense. But not or Peter Schiff or something, but not a failed businessman. All right, let me continue on.
Stolen valor, fake war veteran, like that guy's a homegrown so it never ends, man. So they're trying so hard to backfill the narrative that they want. And honestly, I think they're doing a disservice. Frankly, I think they're making my job easier. When people are like, well, what's the most compelling thing? I was like, just listen to the other side.
Right.
Just listen to what they're trying to do. I mean, imagine any reasonable person in this day and age in America or any other time prior to that in this country where they'd be willing to destroy a 15-year-old kid for their political objective. Look at what they did to Kavanaugh, right? I mean, obviously the guy is such a serial rapist that the second he got confirmed, we don't hear about those things anymore. Now you see the women are...
Dude, your father's a serial rapist.
Yeah, no shit.
Not
really
a serial rapist,
the media heard what they wanted to hear, and they just decided to run with it because they don't even have the pretense of being objective
your
anymore.
Father.
They are just the marketing wing of the Democrat Party.
Is that the 24-hour news cycle that all of a sudden they became so clickbaitish and everybody has to get the story first to get it first? But it really does seem like they're not even pretending to not. Like, everyone knows Fox leans conservative and the rest of the press leans... Yeah. People were criticizing when they gave a thing about your father. They said... Trump mentions peace or something. The New York Times put the headline. They actually changed the headline because it wasn't anti-Trump enough, and people were threatening to cancel the paper.
Well, and that's the point. And I think you're right. I think it has to do with the news cycle. I don't think it's any secret that mainstream media has been left-leaning, just like academia has been left-leaning for a long time. But they've eliminated the notion of objectivity as a pretense. I mean, honestly,
that's just not
go
true.
To yesterday. Like, my father put up the meme of the dog. Like, it's literally a joke meme.
Yeah.
And the New York Times goes, they're fact-checking it to see if this was real. I mean, I'm sitting there being like, you can literally see where it was, like, cut and paste in Photoshop. But, they have to go out there and do this to try to be like, oh, we got you. It's like, guys, like, it wasn't serious. I mean...
Have there been times where, and, like, life has obviously changed, and I think that this is why your family situation is so unique, because there have been very few presidents that were such public figures before this. So, like, your dad was on Twitter way before he was president. Your dad was, this has been something that he's been doing. You were a public figure way before any of this. Like, you've been a public figure your entire adult life.
As a child, too.
Have there been any tweets that your dad has put out where you're like, Dad, you're the president now. I'm not even saying you're wrong, but maybe we don't tweet this like this anymore.
I'm not even saying you're wrong. Get the fuck out. Like, first of all, your father writes at third grade level. I mean, it's horrible. Grammar, syntax.
Your father said that to you about Twitter?
Yeah, I'm like...
It's embarrassing.
I'm like, this is the one responsibly, Junior.
He's fine, Don. The way he speaks. Educated, he's well-spoken.
It took me 41 years to sort of
He
realize
wanted
I was
to
probably
his father's
a lot more
moron.
like my father than I ever thought. But,
is it weird when your dad calls you and goes, look, you got to slow down on Twitter? You're getting carried away.
Yeah, well, without question. But, the reality is, all in all, I think he needed to do it because it's the only way to sort of bypass, that filter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
of the media. Because, again, I saw it, during the campaign. I'd go out, in 16, I was like, I usually did my own thing because, like, honestly, the only place it doesn't make sense for me to be is like wherever he is. He sort of commands a presence. Like, I'm just totally superfluous at that point. It doesn't really add much value. But, for some of those things, I'd be there and, then you see the mainstream media headline. It's Donald Trump said this. I go, when? They're like, well, yesterday in Michigan. I go, where? At the rally at XYZ. I'm like, well, I was there. Well, if you take minute number 1 and you take a sentence from here and you take
He's
minute
just totally
number 15,
spinning this.
then you add in sort of what he's talking about.
Does the
in
media
minute number
go
37, and you forget
embellish, exaggerate, or try to spin it a certain way?
Yeah,
for
he
sure,
said all
but
of
he's
those words, just not with that intention, not in that order. And I mean, I saw it happen so many times that I was like, wow. Like I said, I knew there was bias before. Hey, it's not like we're, immune to controversy. He's had more press in New York than any, any guy before him. Like, we did it with The Apprentice. I mean, hey, just with you guys alone, like, how many times did they try to own me for things?
What
I'm
a
saying
joke
on,
that
like,
was, The Apprentice. He should have stayed that. I never
shock
watched the
jock.
show, but that's what he
We never
is.
thought we'd
He's
see you
a
again. We're happy
clown.
you're back.
A
The
gaudy,
reality,
fake
like I said, our approach
businessman.
is different. We don't
And
then
people liked
just, crawl up into a corner and die, which is what the other side would love you to do. They want to be able to own you, and it's over, and you have no career. Like, we're like, yeah, I said it. Like, congratulations. Like, let's do it again.
How much of it is business too? Like the NBA reaction to China, with the tweet about China, and then LeBron backing up, going, well, there's consequences to free speech. Like with other social issues, they don't seem to mind.
Yeah.
Is there non-reaction and they're backing up? Is it cowardice, or is it a smart business move, or is it kind of both?
It's a combination of both. Like, if LeBron said, hey, I'm not going to talk about this because it's all about the money, I'd respect that.
Right.
But to talk, essentially shit about America for a couple of years now, Steve Kerr, same thing. He has all of a sudden, how about China? Oh, well, I'm not educated enough on that one. Guys, it ain't quantum physics. The atrocities of the Chinese regime, whether it be, the Muslim concentration camps, whether it be theft of our people, like, this is not something you need to educate yourselves on that much. You have no problem talking about in America where you believe that you're appeasing, your base, your audience, you're speaking to, woke culture. That's no problem. But the second, I'm not informed enough to talk about it. Like, don't be a freaking coward. Like,
Right.
at least own it. And that's the difference between Trump and all of these guys. They hit it. He owns it. He says, "Yeah, that's what I said, 100%."
Did he say something about Saudi Arabia, which I actually liked, even though I hated the sentiment, but it was the most honest thing a politician ever said about Saudi Arabia. After the Khashoggi, he said, look, they're buying $100 billion worth of stuff. Like, there was an honesty in that other politicians will not use. Like,
Correct. By the way, it's the same reason the other politicians are doing what they're doing. They just have to be able to go out there and pretend there's another pretense. I mean, the reality is,
There's a little
he is
bit
a
of truth to
business
that.
guy.
It's true.
He's running this country and trying to run this country like a business, which it should
This
be.
is
Instead
hilarious.
of what we've seen in the past, which is a bunch of guys who are nothing but politicians, who have no actual experience, who've
a
never
failed
signed
businessman.
the front of a paycheck, who've never had people's livelihoods, their family's well-being
Just try
on their success
think how
every day,
insane
like
that
my
is.
father
A
has
guy who's
by
a complete
being a
failure
businessman.
in business
And that's why you get the
is
results.
going to try to
And
run the
you're getting those
country. I mean,
results
it's just so preposterous.
despite unprecedented incoming, right? I mean, I think we can say objectively that no president prior to Trump has anything like this in terms of sort of incoming hatred, whether you like him or not. Give me a break.
Right.
And so he's doing those things, and all-time low unemployment for African Americans. That's that didn't just
This is
magically
all
happen.
just
That's because
nonsense.
of policies. That's because of eliminating regulations. That's because of the things that he did that allowed business to thrive, which allowed people to get hired. All-time low female unemployment. All-time high
Unbelievable. This is just all
African American
bullshit.
startup businesses. All-time high female startup businesses. Like, there's not a single economic metric where we are not better off today than we
Let
were
me
3
just
years
pause
ago.
this for a
And
second.
you don't hear about it.
So you attribute it to Donald. Donald Trump does three things. He watches Fox News, he tweets, and he does the rallies. He's horrible. I mean, he won't even read the relative documents when a bill's up. He doesn't read. I mean, I guess he has dyslexia or something. You've heard him try to read the teleprompter. He doesn't read at all. Even in his private life, I mean, I've read so many biographies, and he doesn't read. Like, every businessman reads the Wall Street Journal, right? That's your Bible every morning. Wouldn't do it. The kid doesn't know how to read. Maybe he likes the tabloids, the Post, Daily News. Doesn't read any books. Has never, this is true. Has never read a book in his life. That's crazy. Can you imagine that? The President of the United States. It's just so sad and pathetic. This uneducated, vulgar, failed businessman, and his son is impressive. He's, I mean, All right, let's continue.
Because you're getting it, and that's the problem, and that's why he's so vocal on Twitter, and that's why I'm so vocal, because again, when you look at it through the filter of the media, you take those stats and you literally will talk about something that is totally irrelevant. 95% negative coverage.
I have to ask.
95% negative coverage. Like, that's hard to overcome. For me, I live this stuff all day long. The average guy
crazy,
seeing,
by the way.
The average guy seeing 5 minutes of, we fight. That's the difference.
Yeah.
The average guy seeing 5 minutes of news a day, even if his wages are going up, which is also happening for the first time.
Oh my God, this is just
history,
all bullshit.
Well, maybe there's something wrong there. I mean, and that's the point. I mean, they're literally trying to bias and control an election. I mean, I've spoken more about this, frankly, as it relates to social media, and this is the other thing I really cover in the book, because I was the guy yelling about this 3 years ago, the social media censorship and what they've tried to do to me, try to do with my father, and you can see it's literally a drive.
What doesn't he talk about? The only president who's never stopped campaigning.
Message,
right, the rallies,
people who want to hear it.
Beginning in 2015, 14, he never stopped campaigning.
I literally type in my Instagram.
It's fucking
handle.
hilarious.
I have 2 million followers on Instagram, and I share the name
What's he
of the
going
president of the
on,
United
dude?
States
Like, why is he? No.
And I'm typing in my name, and we show up on like page 5 of the scroll behind like Don Trump 327Q6.
You got the shadow ban.
_7 with 2 followers.
I'm
and
sure
one
he
post.
knows deep down inside that his father's a joke.
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
A lot of comics have been talking about it too. That they've been shadow
crazy,
banned. I think it's a real thing. I have to ask you something. We were talking about it on the show recently. You've been very close. You've been in the White House, but you're very close to the White House as the son of the president. Do you think there's a possibility that the United States government is covering up the existence of extraterrestrial life?
It's so funny.
I need to
it's
know.
Literally, it's the question I wanted to ask my father for a very long time.
Do you think there's aliens being covered up?
Well, it's one of those things. I've wanted to ask it. I'm almost too embarrassed to ask it because I'd be like, seriously, like if you get one question,
I'm kind of interested in this.
probably the question,
Me. I
but
like
I'm sort of embarrassed
all this
admitting
stuff.
that. So I don't know.
Maybe you do it like casually. You go, I was on this radio show, and this Sam asked, like, do I think aliens exist? I mean, what
Yeah, that was a stupid question. What do you think?
Yeah. But do you think so or no?
Listen, I would find it as a believer in sort of math and statistics, even though those two are now racist today. Well, you've seen those, right? I mean, that is what some are trying to convince us of. I would find it hard to believe that in a universe the size of ours and whatever's beyond that there's not something there. I don't know that there's some sort of massive cover-up. I don't know that I necessarily believe that, but I would find it hard to believe that there's some sort of other life out there.
Agree.
I feel like if there was a cover-up, you would have at least heard a whisper of it by now, no?
Probably not, but
okay.
Well, your father seems like the type of guy, though. He seems like the type that would ask.
He knew. He'd be like, "Listen, we're putting it out on Twitter. Like, we got to get this out there."
How about the JFK stuff? He wanted a lot of those documents unsealed. Like, he did certain things that
Well, that's the
people-
reality.
know.
I mean, he wants this stuff out in the public.
Yeah.
Good
Unsealed
or
or
bad
no?
or different. I think he did.
Yeah,
And
except for his own
but, again,
scams.
no different than the
How about
other
your
stuff they're
tax
trying to
return?
kill for the-
Tax returns.
Here's the transcript.
Criminal bastard.
We're not the ones conducting things. Hey, when they spent 2 years trying to throw me in jail for taking an unsolicited, here's the emails. Like, what? I literally put them out on Twitter myself. He did the same thing with the transcript on the Ukraine call. Like, here you go. It's literally the other side that's
Oh, my
conducting
God.
these things with one prosecutor, one judge, one jury in the basement of Congress for 41 days.
He's going to be impeached anyway.
I hear about democracy dying in darkness, but I don't hear anyone.
At the end of the
in Washington
day, when
Post
all is said and
complaining about the
done,
way that's
you'll
going
see
because
Trump
they're
is going to
getting
end
the
up
end result
where
of
he
the narrative
belongs,
that
in
they want
jail.
again. So, I think his general nature is frankly to be pretty open and out there. And let the people decide, but that's not necessarily the way the government has.
So let me just say this.
Functioned or performed.
When they come after you legally, even if you know...
Like, let's just say, if he doesn't get impeached, which I think is going to happen anyway, impeach, remove, and whatever. But let's just say 2020, there's a landslide Democratic victory. I mean landslide, like Reagan-Mondale victory. Watch what happens. You'll see. He's going to end up in jail. Like, he's got... this whole following. That's a lot of power. 63 million people voted for him, right? So, so we just, you'll see what happens. It happens all the time. Like the court of public, public opinion, right? So let me continue on. I'm almost 15 minutes. I'll probably stop in a few minutes and then finish it up on my next video.
Oh, you're not guilty, even if you're going to put your emails out when they are threatening to come after you legally. Is there a part of you that's terrified, going like, there are plenty of cases where people have been innocent, where people, like, the world knows they're innocent, and they get locked up?
Yeah, it's a great one. This is another one. I don't know if you got to this one in the book, but I talk about it a lot because, I mean, really, I was probably the number 2 target of the Mueller investigation, right? I mean, they were like, "Oh, we're going to get him now," and I mean, even my own.
No wonder what he says, because
anxiety. You
for
can't
sure.
attack these people; they're going to be subpoenaing you. I'm like, do you think for 1 second, like, if I went out there and was like the nicest guy in the world to Adam Schiff, like, you think for 1 second he's going to be any nicer to me? Like, even at after 3 years,
or in your book, #full of Schiff every time his last name comes up,
and millions of dollars in legal fees, I'm literally like, they've actually come to me like, you know what, you were right, like you get no points for being the nice guy. So I think it's interesting because I think it's sort of the thing that Trump has taught other conservatives, which is like, it's okay to fight back. Like, you don't just have to take the loss because the other side wants you to, even when you're right. And so for this process, it was, it's sort of strange, but I guess I got a little bit of that Trump gene, which is like, hey, I'm just in the fight. Like, whatever, we're not going to. So I never thought about it in those terms, even though, I mean, you can look at very real results. Again, I was a target.
No, give it to him.
He committed treason. I'm like, I committed treason for taking a phone call? Like, it wasn't treason for Hillary to pay foreign operatives to go into these countries and collect dirt to assemble the fake dossier that we all know is now disproven. You had 19, Robert Mueller, who was above reproach because, he was the head of the FBI and a decorated veteran. Like, I think even my liberal friends were like, they saw him testify in about 30 seconds. They're like, oh my God.
Unlike your father, the draft
dodger. I talked about this in the book because you could see, second question, like, Mr. Mueller, have you even read the Mueller report that you spent 2 years on and $40 million? Like, he didn't know who Fusion GPS was. And you realize, like, okay, they put him in there because he had a good track record. He was sort of above reproach because of that record, but like, he had no idea what was was going on.
Yeah,
he was totally.
Now, what do you
used.
think,
I mean,
Don Jr., if your father being the commander in chief,
had 19 Hillary Clinton donors on it, and not a single conservative
who dodged the draft?
The whole thing was a sham, and you knew it was going to be from day one.
It's pathetic.
But that was the nature of it, and like I said, I probably should have been more concerned about it than I was, but honestly, I didn't lose any sleep about it because I knew I was right and I knew I was going to fight and I wasn't just going to curl up in a ball and die. And again, I think that's probably, genetically, we probably have a slightly underdeveloped sense of self-preservation.
Yeah.
But, that was, my response. And like I said, if you looked at me and my dad, in business before, everyone's like, Don's sort of the one that's not at all. And I probably wasn't, whether it my hobbies or what I did. And, it was, backed into a corner. Like, that's when I was like, oh, those sort of genes kick in, and that's the way we handled it, and I think it worked out great.
What do you think? Like, I think when Obama said he wanted transparency, I think he meant it when he said it, and I think all of a sudden the system he gets in, and he just couldn't achieve it. What do you think? All right, once your father gets the job, he's the president now, he has the gig. What do you think is the most surprising thing for him that he's had to encounter? That he thought would be doable and isn't doable? Or what has he encountered that you think has been the most shocking for him?
I won't speak for him, but I think my opinion, looking as an outsider, is sort of the amount of people who want to work in administration only to try to be subversive to it. You know what I mean? Like, if the way I sort of look at it and what I've said, and I probably cover this in the book a little bit, which is, if you weren't a conspiracy theorist, sort of like, believer in the deep state prior to 2016, I probably understand that. If you're not now, you're a freaking moron.
Well, speaking of conspiracy
theory, does that make
sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you, number
I think
one,
it's going to get good, I think, about Epstein.
Do you
and stuff.
believe there is a fake Melania? And number two, have you met her?
Not to my knowledge. If it's a fake Melania, it's a very good it's a very good representation. But that was the whole thing. It's, you see the article. Melania is being held captive. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I mean, this is the crap that we're dealing. Obama didn't get headlines like that. There was no
Dude.
accusations.
You see on the internet,
it was always Camelot.
they're saying,
regardless of
get the fuck out of here. Michelle Obama is a transvestite. She has a penis. It's all over the internet.
Media went from literally being a cheerleader where even bad things were perfect to exactly the opposite. And I think again, I think people do see the hypocrisy. I mean, I think you can still be, left wing and be like, okay, regardless of this, I mean, I see regular people around the country. They're like, listen, I may not necessarily love everything, but like, let him do his job. And when you see again the results, and especially the results relative to the income, it's sort of outstanding.
I mean, this is so stupid.
Like, imagine they could just the other side work with them a little, get USMCA passed, right? The renegotiation of NAFTA. NAFTA has done nothing but send American jobs.
Your father's a monster.
It's literally
He's
allowed
horrible.
us to be like our only real export has been the American dream. We've said he managed to negotiate that again. People said it was impossible. It's been sitting on her desk for 9 months. She won't bring it up because she knows even her people would have to vote for it. So it's that sort of that mentality is, hey, it's good for America, it's good for our constituency, it's good for everyone, but we can't give Donald Trump even a partial win
we can't.
On this thing. So we would rather watch Americans suffer than do something that's good for them because it hurts Trump. And I mean, it's that sort of mentality for me as an American.
The Republicans are worse,
It's disgusting, and it pisses me off.
Can you explain George and Kellyanne Conway to me? I don't understand
I
how
wanna
they
know.
find.
This is funny.
I
I'm
respect the
interested
fact
in
that your
this.
father's kept her on. But her husband I find hateable just because like this is your wife and does she on some level agree with him? How do they stay married?
I don't think so. But listen, I'm not going to opine on people's individual relationships.
Kellyanne is one of the
Again,
most repulsive persons on planet Earth.
Imagine the husband of a high-ranking, left-leaning official was doing that. They'd destroy him.
Right.
This would be the second. He's bitter. He didn't get a job in the administration that he wanted. She did. She's now the rock star that's out there, doing a good job, and he's pissed. But like, where are the feminists like attacking him? No. Well, he's attacking Trump, so he gets a total pass on the fact that he's making it really tough for her to be able to do her actual job that she signed on for. This is a grown woman that's deciding to do this, and she's good at it. So again, it's one of those things like, now this guy's the hero because he's part of the resistance. I mean, give me a
She is talented.
I can't believe it when I see it. Whether or not they James Carville and his wife,
scumbag,
they
no
both are opposite ends of the
morals,
spectrum. There's a liberal and a Republican.
When they're publicly, and he's like so publicly against the man that her job is to.
There's so much
publicly
more I have on
support.
this.
I mean,
We're going to talk about
it all the time. It's the
Epstein and
craziest
stuff.
thing
I want to
I've
hear
ever
that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one.
When do you think?
All right, here we go.
You talk about speech, and this book is again. It's what I've read of it. It's very funny, and it's even stuff I didn't agree with. I like you. You back up your points very well, so I know exactly why he feels the way he feels. So even if you don't agree with it, you should still. It's a fun book to read, and you'll enjoy it. When did speech get away from? Even George Carlin said this in an interview. He said the censorship is coming from college campuses. He's like, I hate to say it, man. When did the left lose their kind of grasp on speech being free, and that became then a conservative strong point?
I don't know, but it's been going on for a while, and like I said, it's a slippery slope, and I think just Trump is just like the accelerant to all of that. Because again, I will go out there like my father said in 16. He's got to be the president for all Americans, not just the ones that he may politically agree with. And so I mean, even for me, when I go out there, I'll go speak on college campuses. I'll go do this, and I can assure you, there's nothing quite so intolerant as a leftist who's preaching tolerance.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
But
the president for all the people,
Martina thing, whether it's
Trump is the great divider.
You can be with someone
He's
literally
causing all the
99% of the way, but if you're not that last 1%, you get no credit for any of it. And so, it's been a slippery slope for a while. I mean, again, I went to an Ivy League school. I'm from New York City. I have plenty of friends that are from the left side. I used to be able to put myself in their shoes, and I think hopefully that comes across in the book, which is like, we can have dialogue. You don't have to agree to be able to have a respectful conversation.
Not really,
I used to be able to put myself in a lot of those, left-leaning positions.
It's not his fault that
and
his
argue
father's a
for sport.
scumbag.
I may not necessarily agree with him, but to do that, you're not even allowed
You don't
to
pick
have
your
those
parents.
conversations now. You're not allowed to
And he's
give someone a platform to speak their, their views. I spoke at a college campus a few weeks ago. I mean, actually, I didn't know whether to be upset or impressed. There was, a young lady in the back that literally went like, ah! 45 minutes straight. Like, she didn't come out. No, I was like, I got to hire this person.
Yeah.
Like, if you could channel that energy into something productive, not like underwater basket weaving, whatever they're learning in college these days, and like, that hate can be a powerful motivator. Like, we could do something with this, but
she's clearly good at what she does.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure how
Long-form screaming.
I'm not sure how to monetize that or to pay off your college debt.
Right.
I'm trying to figure that one out. But like, how good are your opinions, and your beliefs if you're not even willing to let other people hear an alternate viewpoint? Oh, make up your own.
I totally agree.
I'm not there to say this is the only way to believe. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong on some of these things. And the reality is, both sides are probably wrong on some things for an ideal place. I mean, I think people are generally pretty happy, in the middle. And while I've been painted alt-right and all that kind of stuff, honestly, I'm pretty, on a lot of social issues, I'm pretty sort of easygoing. I could care less,
Well, and they won't. This, the problem I have with it is they won't credit them for anything. Like the al-Baghdadi killing them. That's a huge thing that the leader.
It is,
killed,
but
and they can't.
man,
Even
the
though
way
if
he
it was botched
responded,
and
I mean,
soldiers had died, they'd be
That would've
calling
been
him
bad.
an incompetent, like the way they did Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
So the fact is, it was killed on his watch, so he should get the credit for it.
Well, and then
did.
they got
that's
the number
fine.
2
It's
guy
just
the
the way
next day.
he
They don't talk
responded
about
at that
that.
press conference was
And honestly, more
appalling.
importantly, I think the great juxtaposition, because I remember, at least people on the conservative side, remember when
Whimpering and
Obama,
screaming,
when he got
it's
Bin
just-
Laden, it was
Go to my old video
I-
and see that.
I mean, my father
I
goes
mean,
to
well,
the-
I'm sure
I'd like to
you've
credit
all
the Joint
seen
Chiefs
it,
of
but
Staff, the CIA, for all of their work. Obviously, the soldiers on the ground, from Delta and the Rangers, and he credited the dog. He credited the dog, the canine unit.
So, dude,
in the
let me just
speech
pause
to
this
the
here.
public, and then
Okay, did you know after when Osama bin Laden was killed, I should bring this up, or go on the internet and Google it. You know what fucking your stupid loser father tweeted? The SEALs killed Osama bin Laden, not Obama. Go, I kid you not, go and you talk about fucking bullshit hypocrisy on his watch. See, come on, dude, you're not genuine. The SEALs killed, I kid you not. Go right now, people, if you're watching this. Google, what did Trump tweet after Osama bin Laden was killed? Look at the tweet. Obama didn't kill bin Laden. It was the SEALs. It's fucking bullshit. See what I mean? Let me continue.
magically the soundbite becomes, it was all about Trump. I go, did you actually watch it? Like, it'd be one thing if, no one saw it and you're able to sell that thing. But, like, literally, this was a national address that he did. He then gave a, 45-minute, hour-long press conference, answered all of these questions, gave all the credit, really, to the guys on the ground getting these things done. And, like, the press will still, it was, typical Trump. It was all about him. I was like, are you watching the same thing that I'm watching?
Dude,
or
why
is it
don't
just
you
a
address
convenient
that?
soundbite?
Jim,
They
why
did
don't
the
you ask
same
him the
thing,
question,
too,
Jim Norton?
with,
Like, he's
with
crying
Kim
and
Jong-un.
screaming and whimpering.
Whereas
You're the
if
president of the United
Obama
States.
had met with Kim Jong-un, they'd be saying, what a great diplomat. He's kind of broken this
Oh,
barrier a little
come
bit.
on. This
But
is
because
so
it's Trump, they're like, it's a
nonsense.
photo op.
Yeah.
And it's like, for whatever reason, he still pulled something off that nobody has been able to pull off
Correct.
for 50
You know,
years.
this is the
Nothing
big part of
counts.
my
This
book.
is
'Cause,
just
we can talk
bullshit.
about economic wins. That makes sense for the business guy from New York to be able to have those. But, like, that's a foreign policy win. Jim, if I have another
Oh
morning
my
where I have to
God,
watch
it's so
some guy,
bullshit.
Trump's doing it all wrong in North Korea, and I know because I've been leading the U.S. delegation. I go, wait a minute. You've been leading the U.S. delegation for how long? Well, for about 40 years. I go, you've been leading, this is your life's work. You were a career diplomat who's been leading the U.S. delegation as it relates to North Korea. You've never even met the other guy. Why should we just believe that you know what's actually going on when
I'm almost at a half
40
hour, so I'm
years
just
you've
going to
achieved
continue
literally
on
nothing?
till the end.
I don't mean to knock that. He's a career public.
There's
servant.
another
It's
6 minutes or
Einstein's
so.
definition of insanity. Do the same thing over and over and over and expect a different result. Like, the reality is we made no progress. Now we actually have a line. My father.
It says in the notes that he's going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. I want to see what he says about this.
Isn't it better to have a direct line? If the crap hits the fan one day, isn't it better to be able to pick up the phone rather than having to go through 15 layers of, and so whether we like it or not, it's actual real progress. And to not even talk about that, Obama's a hero because remember, the picture of him like looking at binoculars at the DMZ from 10 miles away. Like, hey, my father had the guts to go there and meet him face to face.
Before we wrap,
Oh,
because
please.
we got to get you on to your other interviews
okay.
and everything. You're a very busy guy. Here's what I need to know.
Yeah. Aliens, right?
Do you really
we're,
think?
we're going back to this, aren't we?
No, I got you on the aliens. I'm good. We're done. One Melania. We got that.
Yeah, that.
Do you really think Epstein killed himself?
Good one.
It's funny because this is one of those things, if whatever I say, it's a lose, right? But man, there's a lot of coincidence there.
Yes.
When I've seen, I'm not going to say yes or no.
He did not kill
but,
himself.
A guy
I
who's
looked up
there, he's
videos on
magically
that.
then, within hours of being, off of suicide watch,
He was
the two
murdered.
cameras that are on him
Totally.
happen to go out. The two guards just happen to... Man, it seems like a lot of coincidence. They try to make Epstein, they tried to make it about Trump. They don't talk about like the 45 times, Clinton's at the island with
come
him.
on, you're
with,
being a scumbag,
they say,
man.
well, he met Trump at a cocktail party one time. Look, we got you. I'm like, guys,
Didn't your dad boot him out of the
he
place?
was literally thrown out of Mar-a-Lago because of some of the rumors and all of this stuff. So, and that's the problem. The news cycle, whether it's Ukraine. Like, I've been talking, like, go look at my stump speeches. Like, I've been talking about Ukraine and the corruption there and all that nonsense for like a year. You know when it got mainstream media pickup? When they could make it about Trump. Epstein, it's been a problem for a long time. This has been like a de facto thing. Whether, Matt Lauer at NBC, all these things are, they've been in the rumor. When you can somehow try to make it about Trump, or when they're no longer in power to be able to do your bidding, that's when it becomes news. And so, they don't talk about those things. They only become news when you can somehow use it as a way to own Trump. And we got him. And so, it's a problem. And I think hopefully we get past that. Hopefully, and again, I think it's sort of backfiring to regular people in America who are like, okay, guys, like, you had me the first time with the hoax. This is now hoax version number 12.
It's not a hoax,
like,
dude.
Maybe you're just full of shit.
Do you think it turns around at all? Is there anything your father can do, do you think, that will get a portion of the press to at least kind of give him some credit for something? Is there anything he can do?
No, he'll never get credit. But I think the way to handle it is, the only cure for Trump derangement syndrome is 4 more years. And I mean that sort of funnily, but I also mean it somewhat seriously in the sense that, the mainstream media didn't get what happened in 2016. They're still trying to figure, the 3 people I talked to in my room at the New York Times, like, not one of them would vote for Trump. How did this happen? They still don't get, that mainstream America is, sick of sort of being left behind.
That's true. I mean, Trump is a symptom
never actually delivered
of the times. This
I
never
think
would
that's
have happened.
because,
This
I
horrible
see that.
monster,
And again,
incompetent,
I have to
failed
caveat anything I
businessman
say
never
to this
would have
point
been
with,
elected.
I am
None of
the
this
son
shit,
a
the
billionaire from
lying
New
and
York
the
City. I get
racism.
that, but between hunting, fishing, competitive shooting, I spend a lot of time in the Midwest and in Rust Belt. I went to boarding school in Pennsylvania from 12 to like 18.
That is a good point. I mean, people don't completely out of touch. I live in the
like
Catskills
rich
here.
kid boarding school, whatever it is.
So
the first girl I ever dated was from a Rust Belt town. Like, I know these families. I spent time with them. My
flyweight
peers
states
were there.
Yeah.
So I think we have an unusually good understanding of real America, given that on paper we probably shouldn't. And, honestly, I think those people are sick of it. And, I think that shows and will continue. But again, we're not in a fair fight, between mainstream media, between the messaging that's out there, between pop culture and Hollywood. I mean, it's not that easy to get the message.
And by the way, I've done several
by
videos on that.
any
Like,
other standard,
Trump is a
2020 should be
wannabe,
over by now,
and
but it's not
a
because
wannabe
we're not in a fair fight. We're in an
elitist.
uphill battle.
And
So, we'll see what
go
happens.
to my
but,
videos.
I think it
Go on
would
my
be one of the
playlist,
great
Trump, the
messages
worst
to
president in
actually
history.
getting back some sort of sense of normalcy, which is like, you guys got to stop this nonsense.
And the book is called Triggered,
All right,
and
that's
it's
it.
really good, man. Again, I wish I would have gotten it a few days ago because the 50 pages I read on the plane were great.
It's out for everybody on Tuesday, by the way, November.
I mean, he annoys me because it's all bullshit and lies. But he's, I can't say, I can't say that he's uneducated or he's a moron, because he's not. He's very clearly very articulate, intelligent, seems like a nice guy, sort of. But, I mean, he's defending his father. I mean, lies, bullshit, and whatever. Okay, 33 minutes and 48 seconds. Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. Peace, love, and understanding here on Tabor Talk.